This is the biggest scam hitting Florida homeowners right now, and I bet you've had these salesmen knocking on your door at least twice this week. They promise rooftop solar is clean, green energy that'll slash your electric bill to nothing and pay for itself over time. But that's just not true. So let's break it all down. Why rooftop solar in Florida is a terrible investment, how these loans are designed to trap you in debt, and what the solar industry is secretly doing to rip you off. Let's jump in. Thinking about going solar to save money? The loan companies are betting against you. Most people don't have $30,000 laying around to buy a rooftop solar system outright, so they finance it. And that's where the real scam starts. Let's break it down. A typical solar system costs around $30,000 if you take out a solar loan at, say, 6.99% interest. Your monthly payment's about $389 for the next 15 years. By the time you pay it off, you'll have shelled out around $46,301. That's $16,301 in interest alone. And let's be real, most homeowners' electricity bills aren't even close to the $389 a month. That means your new solar payment is probably higher than what you were paying for power in the first place. Instead of saving money, you just locked yourself into a 15-year loan with an extra bill. Sure, paying cash is the best way to go if you're dead set on solar, but how many people can actually afford to drop $30,000 up front? Now, what about that 30% tax credit you keep hearing about? Sounds great, right? But here's the thing. The government isn't sending you a check for 30% of your system's cost. It's just a reduction in the income tax that you owe. So if you install a $30,000 solar system, you can deduct $9,000 from your taxes. And you should probably talk to your CPA first to make sure you can even take that deduction. And now that Trump's in office, what if he decides to end these tax credits? The reason they're there to begin with is that this whole solar business doesn't work without them. The people getting rich are the solar salesmen and the solar companies. But let me show you a better option. Let's say you had $30,000 in cash and you were thinking of dropping it on a new rooftop solar panel system to save some money. If you took that same $30,000 and invested it in an index fund that tracks the S&P 500, earning an average of 10% return every year, after 15 years, you'd have $125,317. No sketchy salesman, no leaky roofs, no panel replacements, just your money growing. Now, this isn't investment advice. Talk to a professional. But when you compare the numbers, solar looks like a losing game. And you want a surefire way to destroy your roof? Slap some solar panels on it and hope for the best. You'd think solar salesmen would warn homeowners about this, but nope. They just sub the contract to a random company, cash their commission check, usually 3 to 10% of the total sale value, and move on to the next sale. If you end up with a leaky roof, that's your problem, not theirs. Now, let me be clear. There are some highly skilled roofers and solar installers out there. I got nothing but respect for these guys who get up on the roof every day and do their job right. It's a tough gig and they put in serious work. But what are the chances that every single guy working on your roof is a master at his craft? Probably slim to none. More than likely, you got some yahoo up there with a drill, putting holes where they shouldn't be, and once they start punching holes through your shingles, your roof is toast. It's gonna leak.
Through it, they cracked the brick that went around it, which then allowed the water behind the brick to come in and cause the damage.
Bad installations are a nightmare. Homeowners all over Florida are dealing with leaky roofs, structural damage, and even roofs collapsing because of botched installs. And good luck figuring out who's responsible. The solar company's gonna blame the roofer, the roofer's gonna blame the solar company, and your insurance company, they're probably gonna drop you. Here's a pro tip. Call your insurance company before installing solar panels. Some insurance companies might not cover them at all. And once they find out you got them, it's adios. And here's another problem no one tells you about. A typical roof in Florida lasts 15 to 20 years. But most insurance companies are gonna make you replace it after 15 years. So let's say your roof's 10 years old and you install solar panels. In just 5 years, you'll have to pay to take the panels down, replace your entire roof, and pay again to have the panels reinstalled. That's a ridiculous waste of money. If you're dead set on solar, the only way to do it is on a brand new roof. And it makes me cringe even to say that. And listen, the solar industry has more scammers than a used car lot. Since 2019, complaints about solar companies in Florida have skyrocketed 700%. That's not just a problem, that's a crisis. And in December 2023, the Florida Attorney General had enough. She sued Vision Solar and Set Up My Solar for shady sales tactics, bad installations, and breaking contracts. Check it out.
The Attorney General wants refunds and other relief for customers, and she says if Vision Solar doesn't take corrective action, she could take away their licenses to do business in Florida. Now, months ago, the I-Team started bringing you reports about customers who said their solar panels were never hooked up to the grid, caused roof damage, and cost thousands and thousands of dollars. The company was already facing class action lawsuits.
It's gotten so bad that the state launched a campaign called The Dark Side of Solar to warn homeowners about all the ways they're getting ripped off. Here's a few ways they scam people. First, they hit you with fake savings estimates. They promise your power bill will disappear, but what if it doesn't? The math they use to prove your savings can be misleading, and by the time you realize it, it's too late. Then there's the bait and switch contracts. You sign up thinking you're getting a great deal, only to find out you're locked into a 20-year loan with sky-high interest rates. What started as a smart financial move turns into a long-term debt trap. Another trick, undersized systems. Let's say you actually need a 10 kilowatt system to power your home. Instead, the salesman sells you a 5 kilowatt system because it's cheaper, making the deal seem better. But now, your panels barely make a dent in your power bill, and you still owe thousands for a system that doesn't work as promised. Bad positioning is another scam. Solar panels work best when they face south with no shade. But if your roof isn't in the right spot, or you got a bunch of trees blocking the sun, your panels won't be efficient. Some salesmen conveniently forget to mention this, because once you sign that contract, your problem isn't their problem. And the worst one, disappearing companies. Some of these solar installers pop up, take your money, and vanish. If the company offers you a 25-year warranty on your system, that sounds pretty great, right? But what if that company goes out of business 2 years later, right before your system stops working? It happens all the time. You're screwed, and you're going to be handling any repairs on your own. And it gets even worse. Some people don't even own their solar panels because they signed a lease instead of a loan. That means the solar company takes the tax credits, and the homeowner gets stuck with a lease payment and never owns the equipment. If they try to sell the house, they might have to pay off the entire system first. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. Many solar salesmen don't actually work for the company installing your panels. They're often independent contractors or work for sales organizations that send leads to multiple solar installers. That means the person selling you the system has zero connection to the company actually putting the panels on your roof. So they have no idea how good or bad the contractors are that are poking holes in your brand new roof. And once you sign that contract, good luck ever seeing that salesman again. If your system doesn't work like they promised, if the company disappears, or if the install is a disaster, you're stuck. They already got the commission and they're off to sell the next deal. This is one of the biggest complaints homeowners have. Shady salesmen overpromising, then vanishing once the paperwork's signed. It's why so many people end up stuck with overpriced systems, bad installs, and loan payments they regret. And if you think solar is all green and full of clean energy and makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, then you fell for the scam. The truth is way uglier than they want you to know. Let's start with where solar panels actually come from. The key material used in the batteries of the solar system is cobalt. And cobalt is mined in Africa, mostly in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And here's the part they don't want you to hear. A lot of that mining is done by hand by children. Yeah, you heard that right. They use kids working in toxic, dangerous conditions just so we can feel good about slapping solar panels on our roofs and acting like we're saving the planet. And what happens when these panels reach the end of their lifespan? They become hazardous waste. Solar panels don't last forever. After 25 to 30 years, they start breaking down, and guess what? They're filled with toxic materials like lead, cadmium, and other heavy metals that can leach into the ground and contaminate water supplies. And here's the thing, there's no real way to recycle them. According to CBS News, over 90% of old solar panels end up in landfills. By 2030, the amount of retired panels could cover 3,000 football fields. So much for being clean energy. All those panels just turn into toxic waste when they're done. So when someone tells you that solar is good for the environment, ask them these two things. What about the child labor in Africa? And where are all these old broken panels gonna go? Because if we're being honest, solar isn't green, it's just another industry that looks good on the surface, but creates massive problems down the road. Now they're gonna tell you solar pays for itself, but by the time that happens, your panels could be ready for that landfill. Solar salesmen love to throw around the payback period argument, saying you're gonna break even in 6 to 9 years. But that's only if everything goes perfectly, which, let's be honest, how often does that happen? Here's what they conveniently leave out. If electric rates stay the same, you're looking at a much longer payback period. The savings they promise depend on rates going up. If they don't, you're stuck paying for a system that's not delivering what you expected. And if your system breaks down, your break-even point gets pushed back even further. Solar inverters don't last as long as the panels themselves, and repairs aren't cheap. If something goes wrong, guess who's covering that bill? Not that salesman that talked you into buying solar. And again, these solar panels are only gonna last 25 to 30 years, so by the time you break even, your panels are probably losing efficiency. And guess what? You'll need to replace them eventually, meaning you're gonna be right back where you started, shelling out another huge chunk of money. Solar isn't some amazing investment. It's a long, expensive gamble that locks you into debt while the industry makes a fortune off government incentives. Now, obviously, I don't have rooftop solar for all the reasons I just told you about, and after hearing this, I bet a lot of you are gonna think twice about it too. But if you do have solar, let me know in the comments. Has it been great? Am I completely wrong? Or has it been a total disaster? And if you're still thinking about getting solar, please make sure you do your homework. The company matters. There are some solid ones out there like Tesla, and at least you know they aren't disappearing overnight. Just because Florida is sunny doesn't mean solar is a smart move. There are way better ways to spend your money than getting locked into a system that might not even work like they promised. And if you're not planning on staying in your house for the next 25 years, forget about it. But if you're serious about saving money, this is gonna blow you away. Click here to find out Florida's plan to end property taxes for good. You heard that right. No more renting your home from the government. This will be a huge win for all Florida homeowners. Click here and I'll see you there.